In Unit 7, Learning Set 4, we're going to look at purchase a home. And in this first video, we're going to look at how we estimate closing costs. So in example 1, Lee and Josh are buying a $600,000 home. They have been approved for a 7.25% APR mortgage. They made a 15% down payment and will be closing on September 6th. How much should they expect to pay in prepaid closing in the interest? The other piece of information we need is how much the home cost is, which is $600,000. So first off, we need to determine the amount borrowed. We need to figure out the down payment because money that we have that we're putting down is not counted towards what they're borrowing. So the first step is to figure out the down payment. The down payment is 15% of the house cost of $600,000. So you would multiply $600,000 times 15%. That means they're going to pay $90,000 down on the house. So the amount that they're actually going to borrow for the loan would be the $600,000 cost of the house minus the $90,000 that they already put down. So their loan amount is going to be $510,000. Now, prepaid interest, what this means is this is a partial month of interest, because when you go to closing, you don't go exactly on the first day of the interest period. So the information they give us is the first mortgage payment due date on October 1st. So prepaid interest is going to include from September 7th, because you went to closing on the 6th. That means you actually own the house starting on the 7th, and it will go all the way to September 30th for a total of 24 days. So you would use annual interest to determine what the interest amount is. So you would take the amount of the loan, which is $510,000, and you are going to multiply it times the annual percentage rate. So that would be $510,000 times 7.25% in decimal form. So the annual interest that they pay on the house is $36,975. So from that, we need to determine how much interest do we pay daily. Okay, so in the year there's 365 days, so the daily amount of interest would be $36,975 divided by 365. So daily they pay an interest of $101.30. Now we need to look back at what are we prepaying. So we are prepaying 24 days of interest. Okay, so the daily interest of 101.30 would be multiplied times 24 days. So they're going to have to prepay $2,431.20. So this was the amount of interest to prepay at closing. And there are a lot of costs involved in closing. It's not just prepaying interest, because when you go to closing, basically you have a lawyer that handles the contracts, signings between the buyer and the seller. So there's going to be fees associated with that, and there's going to be filing fees for, changing ownership legally in the courts, and the lawyer handles all that. So not only do you have the lawyer fee, you have the fees for all these different documentations. These are all part of the closing costs. Sometimes the seller pays it, most time the buyer pays it. So when you go to closing, you can typically expect to closing costs to be between 2 to 7% of the purchase price. So Lee and Josh know that they will have to bring their checkbook. What might they expect to pay in total closing? So we would use this 2 to 7% rule and figure out what we expect to be the lowest amount and the highest possible amount. So we know the house is $600,000. So 2% of $600,000 is $12,000. $600,000, 7% of that would be $42,000. So Lee and Josh should expect to pay between $12,000 and $42,000 in closing costs.